Thank you, everyone. Welcome to our Tuesday evening weekly meeting of the Fairfield Golden Speakers Toastmasters Club. My name is Rick Starr. I'm the Sergeant at Arms. It's my pleasure to welcome, to start the meeting, our acting president, Mr. Monty Condon.
Thank you, Rick. Our regularly scheduled president, Mr. Lewis Dembaum, will be returning to us next week. He has a prior obligation tonight. But tonight, you're stuck with me, acting president. The mission of a Toastmasters Club, Golden Speakers, is to provide a positive and safe learning environment for our members so that they can do two things. So that they can improve their communication skills and also develop their leadership skills. This leads to, in their life, greater self-confidence, and my favorite, personal growth. That's the mission of all Toastmaster clubs. And tonight, we'll be going through that, and you're going to see that in motion, in work. I see we have a couple of guests. This is the part of the meeting where we invite our guests to stand up, tell us their name, and let us know what brought you to Toastmasters. How'd you hear about us?
Hello, Chris. My name is Malcolm. I'm a student at MUM. What brought me to Toastmasters was my first experience was maybe about a year ago. I came to one of the meetings, so it's not necessarily my first time. And I was a part of the youth leadership program, the Toastmasters youth leadership program, and I enjoyed that experience. So decided to give it another try.
Glad to have you tonight, Mom.
Thank you.
We have another guest, returning guest. Good to see you again.
Yes, my name is Sergio. I'm here because I think communication skills are something very important to develop, and I think this is a great place to develop that.
Great. Thank you, Sergio. Definitely in the right place. You're still a guest, but you're almost a member?
Yeah, no, I'm going to be a member, but
okay.
This is my third week.
Third meeting? Great.
Yeah. So
what's your name?
Prites.
Prites?
Yeah.
Great to have you. And soon to be member.
Yeah.
Really quickly, since I'm actually going to have to step out before the meeting's done, I do want to bring up some club business that usually we would do at the end of the meeting. Next week is our speech competition. And Luis is our chairhead. At the end of the meeting, Luis, if you would like to stand up and let us know where we're at on that, what volunteers that you need, what positions you need filled, the status of contestants, how we are coming along with that. If you would say a couple words at the end of the meeting for that. Also at the end of the meeting, our Jyoti Raj Adhikari is going to be collecting membership dues. Those are due. You have until next week to pay them. The absolute deadline is next meeting, March 17th. But he'll be here at the end of the meeting also to collect membership dues. And of course, we have our VP of membership right here. So for new members or people that are interested in possibly joining, Gene will answer questions about that. Without taking up too much further time, it is my pleasure to welcome our Toastmaster for the evening. He's a greenhorn, but he's going to do well. He's learning the ropes quick. Please welcome Luke Hillis.
Welcome, everybody. So glad you could be here tonight. We're all here for another high-power night of personal growth and leadership development. I am Toastmaster tonight, which means that I oversee the structure of the meeting so that we keep pace and end on time and provide smooth transitions between our activities. We have different roles tonight that help us develop our speaking skills, our leadership skills, and each night a different member gets to play those roles to develop their skills as well. One role is as the timekeeper. We have Raven. You perform that role. Let's please welcome Raven. Raven, tell us what you do.
This little timer and this light. And table topics are 1 to 2 minute speeches, and the green light will be turned on when they begin. Oh, it's turned on at 1 minute, and then the yellow light is turned on at 1 minute and 30 seconds, and the red light is turned on at 2 minutes and remains until the end of the speech. Prepared speeches are usually 5 to 7 minutes. The green light will be turned on at 5 minutes, the yellow light will be turned on at 6 minutes, and the red light is turned on at 7 minutes. For longer speeches, which we do have tonight, it will be between 10 and 15 minutes. Evaluations are 3 minutes. The green light is turned on at 2 minutes. The yellow light is turned on at 2 minutes and 30 seconds, and the red light is turned on at 3 minutes and stays on until the end of the evaluation.
Thank you so much, Raven. We also have the grammarian role, which is Lindsay tonight. Lindsay, please tell us what you do.
As a grammarian, I will be listening to all the speeches for language used by members during the meeting. I'm going to make a note of any exceptionally good or bad uses of the language and give a brief report at the end of the meeting about what I've heard. And I will also be listening for the word of the day, which is eminent, famous, and respected within a particular sphere or profession. As an example, you could say something like, the world-famous guitar player was eminent in this field.
Thank you, Lindsay. And our next person is, Louise, the counter. Oh, no? Okay.
My role tonight is to be a stand-in for Louise. I am acting as the counter. My job is to note down the use that anyone makes use of a filler word, examples being so, perhaps in some cases, and, but, certain other things like tongue clicks and repeats or false starts, and to make a brief report at the end of the meeting.
Thank you, Art. Our general evaluator tonight is Jean Symington Craig, and that'll be later. And then at the end, we'll have a joke by Jyoti Raj, who will be coming in a bit. And our ballot counter leader will be Nelson. He'll be going around to pick up our votes for favorite speeches, favorite evaluator. And having said that, we're now going to move into our prepared speeches. So our first evaluator who will introduce our first speech is Scott Terry. Please give a warm welcome.
Rick will be speaking tonight from the Values in Leadership. Rick is a member of the band The Who, Eminence Front, which we all bow down to as we bow down to Rick. I have to throw this out. Okay. Rick has been a member of Toastmasters and Golden Speakers Toastmasters Club. Nobody knows The Who. I really am old, aren't I? All right, Rick has been a member of the Toastmasters and Golden Speakers Toastmaster Club since 2003. Rick is also a charter member of the Cambridge Tech Masters Corporate Toastmasters Club. The Leadership Excellence Series is a set of presentations addressing the subject of leadership. Members learn about the skills they need to be successful leaders inside and outside of Toastmasters. These presentations are designed to give the club members to fellow club members. Rick's presentation from the Leadership and Excellence Series is Values and Leadership. One thing I'd like to read here before Rick pops up is something in the Values and Leadership book, which is really important, I think, to look at. What are values? What do they mean when we start thinking about values? Values, as they are defined in here, which I think is a really interesting to look at it, values are a basic set of beliefs and ideas that are held by an individual or organization. Values affect the way people conduct themselves, guide their decisions, behavior, and worldview. In leadership terms, values are not to be confused with morals or ethics. Rather, they define what an individual finds worthy of his or her time and attention. Rick is certainly eminent and will show us what that is to him and to us tonight. Thank you. Thank you, Scott. Mr. Toastmaster, honored guests, and viewers at home, and fellow Toastmasters. As Scott mentioned, I'm giving a talk from the Leadership Excellence Series. This is a series of speeches designed by Toastmasters to be given by Toastmasters to fellow club members. This series of 10 speeches, each one deals with a different aspect of leadership. Tonight, I'm going to be talking about values and leadership. What are values? Values are a set of beliefs and ideas affecting the way people make decisions and conduct themselves. Tonight we're going to be looking at values by looking at a real-life example of leadership and values. And the example we're going to be looking at is a company that's right here in Fairfield, Cambridge Investment Research. The reason I chose Cambridge, by the way, I have to say, I guess this is a disclaimer. I work at Cambridge. I'm not a paid spokesman, but I do work at Cambridge. The reason I want to talk about this is when I first interviewed at Cambridge, the interviewer started talking about the values that Cambridge held dear, what they call the 4 core values. And they started going through them, and I was thinking, yeah. Almost every company I've worked for, they say, oh, things like, we put people first and all that. And some of the crappiest companies I've worked for said, oh, we put people first. But then they got to the value of kindness. And at first, I couldn't believe my ears that a company would be based on kindness. And I've been working at Cambridge for about 3 years, so I'd like to talk about Cambridge and its values. A little background on Cambridge. Cambridge was founded about 30 years ago by Eric Schwartz, actually the predecessor to Cambridge. It kind of morphed into Cambridge. Eric is still the owner of Cambridge and is very active. He's the chairman of the board and the CEO. Cambridge is a financial services company. It's what's known in the financial services world as a broker-dealer. And to explain that, use an analogy of real estate, selling real estate. If you're a licensed real estate agent, you want to sell houses, you need to be associated with a real estate broker. In the same way, if you're a licensed financial advisor, you need to be associated with what's called a broker-dealer. And a broker-dealer does things like helps the financial advisor with regulations, helps with training. We have offerings that the financial advisor can present to their clients. Cambridge has about 650 employees, most of whom are in the home office in Fairfield. And we work with about 1,200 independent financial advisors. And that's a key point. Our financial advisors aren't employed by Cambridge, but they have their own businesses, in some cases very large businesses. So that's Cambridge in a nutshell. So what I've developed is a checklist, a 4-point checklist we can go through and see how Cambridge is doing on values. I know a speech is only supposed to have 3 sections. We're going to walk on the wild side tonight and have 4. So try and keep up. The first, values. What values? What this means is that the leadership has to define their values, has to explain them, has to communicate them to everyone. Second, walk the walk. Talk is cheap, but do your actions reflect the values that you talk about? The third, what's the bottom line? Values are good, but do they contribute to the profitability of a company? And the fourth is, the most interesting now and forever. You as a leader establish values, but how can you have this continue forward? How can you have the values perpetuate themselves? So let's look at the first one, values. What values? I'd like to read something from Cambridge's first page on Cambridge's website. Cambridge feels very strongly that a broker-dealer's values clearly drive the quality and service a financial professional receives and in turn delivers to their clients. Our key values have long been based on integrity, commitment, flexibility, and my favorite, kindness. So does Cambridge communicate these? Clearly, look on the website, and it's right there on the first page of the website. Cambridge lists the values and explains what each one is. Not only that, this isn't a very good picture of it, but on the wall in Cambridge, the 4 values are painted in very lovely font. So every time you walk by, you see them. Even on the back of our business card, it has these 4 values. So at least the words permeate the culture, the words and the explanation. So the first point, values, what values? We'll give Cambridge a check mark there. Cambridge does okay. Now, walk the walk. Actions speak louder than words. I want to give you a couple of examples, a few examples of what I see as Cambridge embodying or living these values. One is integrity. Cambridge has for sale what are called non-proprietary products. That is, we don't manufacture, that's the wrong word, but these aren't our products. And so if you go into another financial advisor, particularly one who works for the company, they might be pressured to sell you equities or something that the company sponsors. We don't do that. We vet our offerings, and they're very objective. We're very objective about them. There's no self-interest in that. Commitment, reps. Cambridge is committed to making the reps successful. I'll get into this in a little bit. Employees. Cambridge is committed to their employees. In the financial crisis of 2008, many large financial services companies, many investment banks, huge banks went under. Cambridge not only survived, but they didn't lay off one single person during that time. They made a commitment to our employees to keep them on even during rough times. To the community, Cambridge is very involved in the community. Cambridge has donated $1 million to the town pool. Cambridge has donated a lot of money to the Civic Center. Cambridge has really made a commitment to this community. Flexibility. Reps are independent financial advisors. They have their own business. Our motto is, you live your dream, not ours. We modify our architecture, our systems to fit you. In fact, in the computer department, we call ourselves exceptions are us, because we make exceptions for every business within reason, so the business can continue doing business as they want to do. Kindness. Cambridge helps out with fundraising many, many times. There's been not just an employee, but an acquaintance of the employee has run into some problems, and Cambridge will help with fundraising. Cambridge will give you a day off with pay where you can volunteer. And one of my favorites, if you've accumulated a lot of away time and someone else has a problem and has to take time off without pay, you can donate your time to them, which I think is great. It's a very, very kind thing to do. Seems to be working. A magazine called Investment Advisor gives out a fairly prestigious award called the Broker Dealer of the Year Award. Cambridge has won this 7 times, including 6 in the last 9 years and the last 3 years. For the last 14 years, surveys of our reps have come back 9 out of 10 in satisfaction, almost the highest mark you can again. For the last 4 years, based on surveys by the Des Moines Register, Cambridge is qualified as one of the best places to work in Iowa. So Cambridge talks about the values and implements the values. So we'll give them a check mark on this. So what's the bottom line? $575 million in annual sales as of the end of last year. $65 billion in assets under management. And we've become the 8th largest broker-dealer in the country. So this warm and fuzzy stuff, it makes us feel good. At the very least, it doesn't hurt the bottom line. It probably helps it quite a bit. So we passed that check mark. And the next one, and this is the most interesting. Eric Schwartz, who is, I said, on the board of directors and the owner, is very interested in keeping Cambridge in Fairfield and keeping this culture. The way he does that is recruit leadership who are committed to this culture and values. And we also recruit independent sales reps, independent rep advisors who have the same mindset. A lot of people apply to be part of Cambridge, a lot of rep advisors. Not everyone is accepted. And the main reason they're not accepted is we don't think they'll fit in with the culture. Our growth, and it's been quite phenomenal, is organic. It's by reps joining us. We have never acquired another company because we're very leery of acquiring a company and trying to assimilate their culture. We have a feeling that wouldn't work. Eric has a plan for independence and private ownership. He's publicly stated he's not going to sell Cambridge. He wants it in Fairfield. He wants it to be independent. And he has a plan when he's no longer associated with this company that his stock will be transferred first to nonprofit organizations, and then management and employees can buy it back. Last check mark, now and forever. Eric has a far-reaching plan to ensure that these values continue at Cambridge. The moral of the story. What's the moral, boys and girls? The moral, I think, is you can do the right thing and still make a buck. You don't have to cut corners in order to be successful. This holds true in business as well as our own lives. We can hold true to our values and still be successful. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rick. We now get 2 minutes to write down our evaluations.
Okay.
Great. Thank you. Welcome back. We now have another prepared speech, which Will Burns will be introducing for us. Thank you, Will and Will.
It's my pleasure to introduce our next speaker. She's doing topic or speech number 8 out of the Competent Communicator Manual. And let me just say in passing that she is a very experienced speaker who is very familiar with this manual. Let me tell you a little bit more about Diane. Diane is a certified life coach and an elementary school teacher. She is currently teaching physical education at the Maharshi School here in Fairfield. Her life coaching is done at home via the internet, via phone and Skype. Diane joined Toastmasters in 2007. She holds an Advanced Silver Communicator and an Advanced Bronze Leadership Award in Toastmasters. She is currently the VP of Public Relations. 1 year she was the VP of Education, and during that year she stepped in and did half a year as VP of Membership. So it goes without saying that Diane has done a lot for this club. It's been a good club experience for her as well. Diane is married to our president, Lewis Dembaum. She has 3 grown children, ages 31 to 24, and 2 stepchildren, ages 29 and 25. She loves family time, walks, and all her life and now loves being with people. Tonight, Diane is doing project number 8 in the Competent Communicator Manual. This is her third time through this manual. She's always felt like it's been good to go back to the basics and also do something for the distinguished club this club enjoys. The title of her speech is titled simply, The History of Toastmasters. Please join me in warmly welcoming Diane Denbach.
Good evening, everyone. Last week, when the meeting ended, I was speaking with Prana and DJ. And I kind of like, well, you know what, where did all this Toastmasters start? You know, what's with the rigidity? And I thought, well, there's my next speech. And there were things I knew and things I wanted to find out. So tonight I'm going to share with you the history of Toastmasters. I'm going to begin with a little slideshow that Rick will flash up. It just moves, so watch it. It moves on its own.
Photobomb.
So there we have the first meeting in October of 1924. The second Toastmaster Club was in California. There's one of the earlier manuals. In 1933, April, the first magazine was published. You should be getting those now as members. In June, the first regional conference was held in Des Moines, Iowa. There's Mr. Smedley and his wife, Frances. In August of 1973, membership opened up to women. In October of 82, the membership reached 100,000. Here's the first woman, Ellen Blanchard. She became the first female president. I'll tell you something about her later. It's interesting. Toastmasters.org is launched. I forget the date. 1995. Thank you, 95. 2004, the membership reaches 200,000. Thank you. And then in 2011, the Toastmasters International refreshes the brand. Missed the date again, but current, I think that was this last year, it reaches 300,000. And last year, the 90th birthday, big conference in Kuala Lumpur, in Malaysia. And that's the slideshow.
Cool.
Just a quick timeline of what happened. Couple of stories. First of all, Ralph Smedley, over 90 years ago, was living in our neighboring state of Illinois, in Bloomington. He just looks like a really conservative type man, and he was the director of education for the YMCA's, Young Men's Christian Association. Immediately, he looked at these men and he thought, for them to be successful, they need to know how to speak, they need to know how to plan programs, and to organize events. And he wanted to help them do that. What I admire is he put that right into action, and right at the club there, the YMCA, he started a Toastmaster club. The reason he called it Toastmasters was back then, the person that gave the toasts at the banquets and the occasion was called the Toastmaster. So the members would come from the YMCA and they would lead and give speeches. Ralph Smedley and some of the better speakers were the evaluators. Now what's funny is, to me, the first manual was called Speech Evaluation, the Art of Constructive Criticism. I would have thought that Ralph Smedley, somehow I made that judgment, really, he used that word, constructive criticism? He liked it, but the organization did not. They felt it was negative. So he fought with them, but eventually they won out. He said, okay, call it evaluating. However, the principles that he came up with back then, over 90 years ago, still exist today. He was a master at creating good points and good tips for evaluating. I thought that was an interesting story. So Illinois, he gets married, he has a child, he's working for the YMCA. As life does, the promotion, the transfer to California. They want him to start the headquarters in California. Now we're looking at maybe 1923-ish or 22. It was a lot of work. So he had to put his passion for this speaking to the side. And finally, on April 1924, the YMCA is open. They have the big christening, as they call it. And then he thinks, I have some time. And he gets back in and starts announcing, Toastmasters, Toastmasters, let's have a club. Let's start a new club. He does. One club leads to 2 clubs, to 3, 4, and so on. Until October 22nd, 1924, he goes through all the processes you do to get, your copyright and patented and start developing the manuals. And that was when it was officially the Toastmasters. So if you think about it, 1924, and last year was 2014, 90th birthday, big celebrations all around the world last year. Happy birthday, Toastmasters. I want to be sure that this part gets in. I showed you, there was a lot, but I'm picking my favorites. Helen Blanchard. In 1970, women were still not in Toastmasters, and it had been operating since 1924. I speak as a woman, we had to come in with men's names. So Helen came in as Homer. It was the 70s, thank goodness. Time of change, time enough with the nonsense. And so by 1973, she came in as Helen, and many other women joined. We've made great contributions over the 40 years. It cannot be denied. Like I said, thought leaders throughout the history of Toastmasters. I was amazed at who was attracted to the club. It's worldwide. And a couple little facts. Right now, there's 313,000 members in Toastmasters. There are 14,650 clubs in 26 countries. Serving many people. And I'm going to end with some words from Ralph Smedley, just to really get a sense for my thing. The world, and this addresses that rigidity, the world needs leaders. Leaders head families, coach teams, run businesses, and mentor others. These leaders must not only accomplish, they must communicate. By regularly giving speeches, gaining feedback, leading teams, and guiding others to achieve their goals in a supportive atmosphere, leaders emerge from the Toastmasters program. The journey begins with a single speech, and on he goes. That's the brief history of Toastmasters, Prana, DJ, and my dear club. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Diane. We'll have 2 minutes now to fill out our evaluations to support Diane and her continuous growth as a speaker. Thank you very much. All right, evaluation's complete. We will now vote for the best speaker. Now let's find out, Raven, did both of our speakers qualify?
So we have, one was overtime.
Okay. Diane's speech was overtime, you're saying?
Yes.
Okay. And who qualified?
What?
Okay. So you have one person to vote for. I would say we don't need to go through that process. Okay. This moves us on to the next section of our meeting. Jean Symington Craig will lead us.
Now we're going to hear from our constructive criticizers. Actually, evaluators, which is
it's really more refined because it takes a certain element out of it. Our first evaluator evaluating Rick's speech is Scott Terry.
Thank you, Jean, fellow Toastmasters, honored guest, and of course, Rick. As a philosophical guy, I love Rick's speech. What he did was really interesting how he constructed this. Essentially, you could think of it as meta values, values of values. He starts off with the concept of what is a value. He then shows us how Cambridge, point by point, is fulfilling that value. He then, by doing such, he is now showing us through Rick himself what values are and how we should embody those values. And then comes to us as being what we can now learn to incorporate into our lives. Which leads us back to the fifth point. What are the real values, or the values behind the values? The structure behind the structure. Sorry to be a philosophical guy sometimes. Brilliant. Essentially, Rick's style is always incredibly clean. So there's not much to say here. The outline, the use of PowerPoints. So many of you don't know about PowerPoints. His use of PowerPoints was very nice. It wasn't flooding the screen. When I was a professor, I remember one time I had such tiny little print that it would take 15 minutes for my students to read what was up there. It was crazy. And so Rick was very clean, very simple, and led us along to really get to it. The visuals were nice. The one thing that Rick needs to still work on a little bit is his eye contact and movements. So Rick did a bunch of this kind of thing, especially when he was standing here. It was a little bit better when he moved over here and it could go towards the screen. But something Tom Trainer taught me a long time ago, one thought, one person, one time. Next thought, one person, one thought, one time. So to really allow the focus to really come back in and to not have your movements be so random as well. Apart from that, what Rick did is he made something that really is a very dry speech, not dry. This is not an easy point. Most of these kind of speeches become rah-rah Toastmaster for a Toastmaster speech. And it doesn't really move past that. Rick's mastery is to move past that kind of a notion of just giving a dry speech on what could have easily been a dry subject, and really made it personal, not just to him, through him to us, but then to direct it to the audience so that we get incorporated in our lives, as well as philosophically take it home. Thank you so much, Rick.
And our next evaluator is Will Burns, who will be evaluating Diane Denbaum.
Thank you, Jean. Could I have the light set back to a neutral position, please?
The
The
red
light.
light is on.
The history of Toastmasters. How many people here in this room feel like they have a better idea of the culture and history of Toastmasters? Show of hands, please. A highly effective speech tonight. I'm going to speak in this evaluation about points. The big points she made and the small points she made. Big point. To be successful, one must communicate effectively. She took that point from Ralph Smedley, created that big concept to give us an idea of Toastmasters. Small point. Ralph Smedley fighting over constructive criticism versus evaluation. As Jean alluded, I could be up here right now as the constructive critic. as opposed to the evaluator. And it doesn't really have the same ring to it, I feel. And if there's actually, this is something that Diane did quite well. Big point, small point. But the area where I feel that she could have improved was in the second half of the speech with a similar big point, small point. Small point. Helen Blanchard coming in as Homer. That was a good point. I wanted to know more, but I didn't. The context wasn't quite there for how she came in at first, and also I feel the number of people and clubs. If you could have maybe found a way to kind of mesh those better. However, you did an amazing job of giving this speech, hitting these big points, these small points, and then with a masterful conclusion, which I feel may be the best summation of Toastmasters I've ever heard. The world needs leaders, leading teams. This reflects my own experience. When I joined Toastmasters, I thought, okay, I'm going to do some speaking. But then I got into the group and I started leading teams. I was part of teams. I was actually doing a lot more behind the scenes. But it all started with a single speech. That's how I got hooked with that icebreaker. And then all of a sudden I'm into this whole growth experience. I think that even your summation did a great job of just bringing home everything that Toastmasters is and what we're all about. So thank you, Diane.
Okay, everybody take a breath from all that criticism and critiquing. Looks like we're gonna lighten up now and have some table topics from our table topics master for the evening, Stephanie Chambers, and she'll explain a little bit how we're kind of organizing so people get turns and stuff. Anyway, I'll let you do that.
So the theme of the meeting is mud, but I'm afraid that mud didn't really inspire me, so I've just come up with a random which is fabulous. So I'll ask for volunteers, and we're going to try and have a mix of members and some guests toward the end. So we'll ask members first to volunteer. Any members who don't have a role? Yes. Yes? Sandy, sorry. Sandy, would you like to? Pick numbers between 1 and 6. Okay, tell us about the most moving novel you've read and why it affected you so much.
Toastmasters, honored guests, and viewers at home. I watch a lot of movies and I read a lot of books. And I'm going to segue into a movie that was a book, because I didn't read the book. And it was this wonderful English romance by Jane Austen. And in it, usually Jane has a lot of pain, a lot of suffering, a lot of love and romance. And in this one, everything was exquisitely sweet. The heroine was sweet. The man that came into her life was the rich man. There's always the rich man in these movies. And he was kind. They had no relationship, but they came together as a partnership. And in this partnership, it was like there was nothing in this whole movie that caused any pain in the heart, any thoughts in the mind. There weren't bad people in there. It was just the sweetest, most uplifting movie I have seen in 64 years. No, 60 years. And so I really, really enjoyed it. I do not remember the name, but next time I come, I'll be sure. And I think, it's really funny because Jane Austen, she's written all these fantastic novels, but she was never married. So it was like in her novels, she lives every single dream that she could possibly think of. And so, thank you very much.
Sandy, I'm the Jane Austen fan as well. So, who would like to volunteer? Another member? Louise? Between 1 and 5?
3.
Okay. If you got cancer, would you have the conventional treatments like chemotherapy, radiation, etc.? What do you see as the pros and cons?
Fellow Toastmasters, honored guests, viewers at home. If I had cancer, would I take the conventional routes of chemotherapy? Absolutely not. I have found in the past few years that the closer that we get to nature, the closer that we get to health. Having cancer is a misfortune. There's no doubt about it. However, there's many ways that we can approach cancer. For instance, cannabis oil has been a way that has proved for many to cure their own cancers. Something as natural as cannabis oil. There has been actual studies that have proven this in Spain. There's some that I have seen myself. I have also met people myself that have cured their own cancer through raw food diets. Because as Otto Warensburg, I believe his name was, he won the Nobel Prize in 1945 for the first cure of cancer. And he understood that cancer could only survive in an acidic environment. Now, we are alkaline beings. Therefore, if we eat alkaline-based foods, cancer cannot thrive in our bodies. It cannot survive. So it makes sense to me why eating a food diet would reverse the cancer, even stage 3 or stage 4 cancer. So if I have cancer, there would be no doubt in my mind I wouldn't do chemotherapy, and would be a living example that cancer is not an irreversible disease, and it can definitely be overcome by nature. Thank you.
What is your favorite sense and why? Smelling, tasting, seeing, feeling, hearing?
All right, thank you. All right, fellow Toastmasters, guests, and viewers at home. It's the first thing. Today was a beautiful day, as many witnessed. The sun, leaves, well, actually, not yet, but the leaves on the trees are coming, and the plants are growing, flowers are blooming. I've always had a interest in nature. I spent 6 months in the trail crew in California, living in the woods, in the snow, and I guess the first thing that comes to mind, my memories are associated with sight generally. So they stick with me. I've enjoyed, I enjoy the sight of trees, of nature. I think it has something to do with just being connected to the environment. It's very grounding. It has a lot of seeing the trees has an effect on me, and so I appreciate that as my favorite sense, I guess. I also think of the world and how we need to preserve it. We have these coal mining operations that are destroying mountains and mountaintop removal. It's devastating to see these beautiful sites just turn to basically just kind of a devastated area. So I think we have a responsibility to these areas, and sight is it's a beautiful thing, but unless we take care of our environment, we won't enjoy the same sights that I've had, that we've all had in our lives. So, yeah. That's it.
Would one of the guests like to volunteer? We have a choice of 1, 4, or 5.
1.
Okay. When you were a child, what did you do when you were sick at home from school? Talk about your memories.
Good evening, everyone. I was sick when I was 5 years old, and I had a small accident in my home. We had extended family, and my grandmother used to cook, prepare tea, and one of family member from my family, like my brother or sister or my mother, had to fetch it, and it was my sister's turn. We used to fight who goes first, and it was my sister's turn, and I tried to ran her, and I tried to outrun her, and while carrying the tea, I stumbled, and it just spilled in my body, and I have boils and rashes, and they took me to the hospital. I was studying on standard 1 that time, and I was away from the school for 1 month, and they had to do a lot of bandages, and when you have to pull out the bandages, it used to hurt a lot. I had pretty bad memory of that, and after a few years, after a few months, I got better, and I forgot about it, and I still have this scar, but it's not of a big concern for me. That's it. Thank you.
Do we have time for another one?
Toastmaster.
Oh boy. Okay.
Toastmaster.
We have to
I
talk,
was.
we have to do some business at the end with the club contest next week, so is that scheduled in?
Love to.
It looks
Yeah, we
like
should have
I
one
just
more, right?
rolled that.
Yeah, we can have one more.
So another guest, perhaps, or? Okay. A choice of 4 or 5?
5.
Okay. Everyone says that it makes more financial sense to rent than to buy. What would you choose to do and why? Would you rent or buy?
Good evening, everybody. If I was given the choice to rent or buy, I would most certainly choose to buy. Mainly because by actually purchasing something, I would have accessibility 24/7. Whereas if I were renting something, I would have to always worry about taking it back, overdue balances, things like that. That extra burden on you. So I would choose to buy whatever it is, and also I won't have to worry about I won't have to worry about I would have to take on the sole responsibility. I would have that extra responsibility of it being mine. So now I have to take care of it.
So if you're done, you have a green light, so you can say thanks and you're done.
All right, that's all I got.
I'd like to thank everyone for participating, and now we'll have the table topics evaluated.
We're going to vote first.
Oh, we vote first. Sorry. Would you like to vote who you felt? No, first off, Raven, could you tell me if everyone qualified? Did everyone speak for a minute and listen to it after? Everyone qualified. Could you read their names out?
Sandy, Sneeze, Prana, and two guests who I didn't know their name.
Pritesh.
Pritesh and Malcolm.
Now I'd like to call up Samantha Young as the table topics evaluator. Samantha.
Okay, good evening, fellow Toastmasters, honored guests, and viewers at home. Tonight I'll be evaluating the table topics as best I can. So first off, congratulations to all the participants. It takes a great deal of bravery to get up here in the first place, so very well done. You're already on your way to distinguishing yourself as eminent speakers.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll start with Sandy. Your subject was the moving novel that you've read, and you quickly jumped into how you're going to segue, so that was a great way to move into what you wanted to talk about. You always have a very sweet presence that commands our attention. The only thing I'd recommend for you would be taking that 30 seconds. It didn't really seem like you needed it, but if you would like, there is a 30-second leeway that you have. And then possibly starting to use the stage. You stayed mostly over here, but if you said, I'm actually going to talk about a movie, and conclude possibly over here, and we could follow you with our eyes. Natural gestures, and your conclusion was exceptional about the unique author and her life and how, as compared to what she wrote about. Luis, cancer treatment. You took your 30 seconds, that was great. I loved how you started on the lectern and you emphasized, no, I would not. And then you came out to the front, which is very dramatic and worked well. The only thing I'd recommend for you would be when you come out from the lectern and then you start to move the lectern, I think because you want a little bit more space right here, I watch you do that, and so it's a little bit distracting for me. So I would say just come out, and possibly you could come back here and conclude. So you will never see me take the typical route and have radiation treatment, kind of thing. Prana, favorite sense and why? So you painted us a beautiful picture in the beginning of the landscapes. You could take your 30 seconds to kind of collect your thoughts on what you wanted to say, and I loved how you ended with that moral imperative associated with the sense of sight. Great job. Pritesh, you greeted us. You illustrated a personal story which allowed us to get to know you better. That was great. You could take your full 30 seconds if you wanted to. And I noticed your eye contact kind of stayed over here. So maybe throughout your time here, you'll be able to start surveying and engaging the rest of us. But otherwise, great job. And Malcolm, rent or buy. So you did greet us as well. You took some time. I noticed your hands were in your pockets for a little while, but you did take them out, and you have very natural gestures, so that worked well for you. I noticed some filler words in there, so I'm being a little bit harsh on you because you went to a leadership program. And you had good reasons as to why you would buy, and ending it strong, just that's why I would buy. And going off with it. So otherwise, good job. Thank you.
All right. We're going to have our reports. Right up is our timer, Raven.
We're gonna vote for best evaluator.
Oh, sorry. Dang, you caught me. Okay. First, our timer. Did all of our evaluators qualify?
Yes.
And could you read the names, please?
Samantha Young, Scott Terry, and Will Burns.
Great. Okay. So go ahead and jot down your best evaluator. Okay. Now we will hear from our timer, Raven, and tell us how we did.
Right, so we had table topics. We had Sandy, who had 1 minute and 42 seconds. Luis, 2 minutes and 23 seconds. Prana, 2 minutes and 8 seconds. Pratesh, 1 minute and 34 seconds. Malcolm, 1 minute and 19 seconds. Then we had a speech from Rick Starr, which was 12 minutes and 35 seconds. A second speech from Diane, 7 minutes and 48 seconds. Then the evaluators, those two. Samantha Young was 3 minutes and 23 seconds. Scott Terry, 3 minutes and 10 seconds. And Will Burns, 2 minutes and 17 seconds.
Thank you. Now everyone knows how to do this, right? I just wondered sometimes, because sometimes I don't see it, but just okay. Our next report feels good too, both for the person who's getting clapped and, kind of raises the blood a little bit when you clap yourself. Our grammarian, let's hear from our grammarian, Ms. Lindsay.
Wonderful speeches tonight. I was listening for exceptional uses of the English language and any bad uses of language. Starting off with Rick, he was able to put Cambridge, by using an analogy, I was finally able to understand what Cambridge does with his real estate analogy. And I also liked the phrase that you used, we put people first. That really stuck with me. Scott, he had my favorite word in the evening when he said meta values. That really stood out to me, and how we should embody the values. He also managed to use eminent twice in his speech correctly. One suggestion I have is that he uses a different adjective other than nice. He seemed to repeat that several times when he could have been a bit more descriptive. Diane, I liked how she started off with, what's with the rigidity? I never thought of it in those terms, but that really caught my attention. And she also used the term thought leaders, which I have never heard before. Jean, she compared evaluator. She referred to that as a more refined version of constructive criticism, which I thought was a very refined way of saying that. Will, he suggested to mesh the points, and he's described a speech as being the best summation of Toastmasters. Sandy, I liked how she started off by saying exquisitely sweet, and if any of you have read Jane Austen, that is such an accurate descriptive way to say that. And she also said that live every dream, so it's just very vivid, descriptive. Luis had a wonderful catchphrase as well, closer to nature, the closer we get to health. We should all keep that phrase with us. Prana had another one like that. Being connected to the environment is very grounding to him. Prutesh, he said that he used the word fetch, which I don't think that we hear very often, and it was refreshing to hear that. That's another way to say a common word that we might use a lot. But there was one mistake I heard. You said spilled in my body. I think you meant to say spilled on my body. Easy mistake to make. Malcolm, some phrases that you used I liked were that extra burden and that renting, you would have the sole responsibility. Samantha, in her evaluation, she was very brief and to the point, which is often difficult to do when you're doing the table topics. It didn't feel rushed, and you still were able to use varied descriptive words. It was different for each person, so very descriptive.
Finally, we'd like to hear from our odd counter for the evening, Art Atkinson.
This evening, and the and so combination were clearly in the lead for a great part of the meeting. Later in the meeting, and were catching up and beginning to overtake. But in the end, so and with and being the first of those two were the leaders. I will be happy to go over the details with anyone who's interested in knowing where they stood. The maximum number of contributions from any one person was 5 on a single filler word.
Now we'll hear from our joke master.
Did anybody have a joke?
That's the joke. We were told you were coming and you have a joke.
I tried one.
All right, all right.
Okay, there was the captain in a ship, and one time they were traveling through the ocean. One time some pirates came and attacked the ship. And as soon as that pirates attacked, the captain said, "Bring my red jacket." And then he had that jacket and just fought, and they just saved the ship, and then just it was good. And the next time, like there were 3-4 pirates again came and they attacked, and then again he said, "Bring me my red jacket." And he had that jacket and just fought, and they won. And the very next time, there were like 50 pirates. They came, and everybody's waiting. He will stay. And then before that, somebody came and asked him. So every time when these people came and attacked, you asked for the red jacket. And he said, "Okay, when I fight, nobody should know that I have this blood and all these things. So that I want to hide all these things from my fellow workers so that they can fight till the end." And then the next time, the same thing happened. And there were 50, 60 pirates came. And that time he didn't say anything. Everybody was waiting him to say that, ask for the red jacket. But he just said, "Bring me my brown pants this time." My brown pants.
Yeah, well, I took me a minute. Do you have this check? This is check. We get it. I did not slow. Thank you, Joe.
So the joke master gets paid? Is that what the...
Yes, yeah.
I was trying to use
Okay, now it's time for the general evaluators report. I always have a fair amount to say. Just want to give a little bit of background. Evaluators are in service to the speakers. That is your job, to give your speaker the best feedback that you can. We have 2 kinds of speeches. We have speeches that are general speeches that are you're just going to do the best you can with the things that you know about speeches. We also have speeches that are specific project speeches that have specific objectives tied to them. you want to be giving, we are looking for feedback and suggestions and recommendations that relate to the specific project objectives for a project. So for example, Diane's project was project number 8. And in the manual at the back of the project, there are questions that the evaluator is given to specifically assess and evaluate Diane on how well she did on that specific project's goals. Not just in general, but also that specifically. So as a general evaluator, I'm always looking to see, did the evaluator correctly and specifically connect the objectives of the project to the speaker's performance and give specific feedback and suggestions. Okay. You get a lot of exercise that way too if you're the evaluator. So you also want your audience to know what those objectives are. Now you read at the beginning, before the speaker speaks, you read several key objectives, but those questions at the back are going to lay out for the audience what Toastmasters International is looking for in terms of accomplishment for this project. So we teach in this club that you want to touch base and let the audience know what those specific questions are so that you can see what the speaker was trying to accomplish. Okay, so with that in mind, Scott and Rick. Now Scott, I don't think there was a particular set of objectives for this. It was more of the first kind of speech I'm talking about, which is a general, and that's the kind that you have in a competition. There's no project objectives. You are looking at just an overall view of the speech. So Scott went in with that structure. And he gave very positive comments on key areas of Rick's speech. The content. He gave comments on how Rick handled the PowerPoint. He gave a little insight into what he saw of the structure of the content. Said it was clean and simple. It was a very complimentary evaluation. He mentioned that Rick moved from something that could have been dry to something that was more personal, which is the kind of thing you want to do with some of these Toastmasters broad projects. Is the way they get a little warmer and juicier is by adding some color. And Rick, it must have been fun talking about the company that you work for. Sounding really good. So and Scott also gave a suggestion: more purposeful eye contact and more purposeful movement. And he demonstrated that as he moved across the stage. So good job. My only question was whether there were objectives that were specific, and it sounds like there were not. So he gave a general evaluation. Will evaluated Diane, and he complimented Diane's mastery of the material, and we all enjoyed it. He gave Diane a suggestion of, for example, meshing the number of people better. He said something like that. And so my suggestion number 1 to Will, where is he? There he is. Will, is if you make a suggestion like that, give an example of what that means. So, I'd like to see you mesh this, but perhaps doing it like this, so that it makes it clear. Also, a key point in evaluating, you don't want to repeat the content, because we're all here. We all heard the content. You don't want to just repeat the content. You repeat the content only to the extent that it illustrates how the speaker tied the objectives to their performance. So for example, if the objectives are to organize the speech, you might want to indicate 3 main points that individual did to show how they organized their speech. Do you get that point? So we don't want to just go through content. Will, you did that a little bit, in my opinion. Again, show how Diane used that content in the context of a technique that she used. That would be evaluating. Finally, Samantha, and I know I'm over, great evaluation, really liked it, started out very complimentary and positive. She gave individual feedback. I prefer table topics evaluations where each individual gets their own feedback. I don't like the big lumped in group because it just doesn't turn me on the way getting my own evaluation does as a speaker. And as the evaluator, I'm in service to the speaker. She also gets better mental exercise. Wasn't that fun? Doesn't that feel like good? All right. So then she also gave very specific and demonstrated when she did, Louise coming out, and she moved around. She walked the talk, as Rick mentioned. She also gave suggestions, and we always want to give a suggestion for each person. She mentioned a lot, recommending taking 30 seconds. Someone asked me, do you have to take 30 seconds a couple weeks ago? No, it's up to 30 seconds. And if you're an evaluator, you will be saying that because you thought maybe if the person had taken a little time before they just launched, they might have had a little more organized speech. So that's the way you use that time. And Samantha evidently felt that was the case. Suggestion for Samantha, not to use and to link sentences. Periods are fine. Last and not least, counters. In our club, we do like to have individuals know where they are saying So I would prefer, Art was having fun with it, but I would prefer that Samantha knows she did 12 ands, because otherwise she doesn't know. We want to know where we have issues so that we can work on those things. That's it. Thank you.
For our next round of voting, you can't vote for Jean as best evaluator because she was over the time limit. Well-placed speech to not have to worry about the time limit. But thank you. I thought that was a lot of great content for us to learn from an experienced Toastmaster about really being crisp in our meetings. Thank you. So, you want to find out some voted winners?
Yes.
Yes.
Table topics. Are those, no, yeah? Those are the goodies?
Or there's no trophies.
Oh, yes.
You just place them right there.
Wow.
Yeah. Table topics winner is Louise. And best evaluator, Samantha. And best speech of the night, Rick Starr. I believe Monty left, but I will just,
Diane?
I'm going to stand, yeah.
Okay, you'll take care. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, everyone. The main job I have, and let's try to end on time, is next week, March 17th, is the club contest. And there are some roles to be filled. Our contest chair is Louise. Actually, Louise, you're welcome to come up if you want to call out to the group and fill this in, because you're the chair. So come on up. See if you can announce who we have and what we need. Yeah.
Hi. So we have a lot of positions to fill in for next week, and I want to ask you guys if you guys are willing to help me out with that. We have 5 positions for judges. Who would like to be a judge? We have Stephanie, Dan, Jean.
And what are you judging down as chief judge?
What are you judging?
It's our speech contest next week. It's a whole meeting.
Table topics, right?
Table topics and the inspirational speech.
Sure.
Inspirational piece, speech contest, and then the table topics contest. There'll be 2 contests.
So your judges have to have completed at least 6 speeches in the Competent Communicator Manual.
Okay.
just in terms of selecting volunteers.
Whatever.
6 speeches, but this is the contestants, not the judges. He wrote that.
It's also the judges.
So
it's for the judges as well. Yeah. Okay. So in order to be a judge, you have to have completed, so 6
Art,
speeches.
you would like to be a judge? Thank you. So we have one more slot for judge number 5.
When is it?
Next
week.
Tuesday? Next Tuesday?
Tuesday night.
You take at least 7 speeches.
Yeah,
6.
Yeah, yeah, I've had 6.
It's on 17th?
Yeah, 17th.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
With me,
Jody?
Jody.
Thanks, Jody.
Next Tuesday.
Not this Tuesday, next Tuesday.
Next Tuesday.
Tiebreaker judge. And there's no requirement for this, right?
Right.
Tiebreaker judge, would you like to do that?
No.
You pick that quietly. Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
Yeah,
Timers, we need a couple of timers. Who would like to do timers? Nelson, Samantha, thank you.
I just have, if I'm performing, if I'm doing a table topic, competing, can I just know when I'm going to be doing that so I'm not?
I think last week it was just because it was randomly called out, whereas normally in table topics, you're going to choose when you get up.
Is that how it is?
Yeah, you're going to be out. Isn't that how it works?
So you can't be a timer if you're in town.
Yeah, you can't be a timer because you can't hear the speeches
Yeah.
of all the speakers.
Yeah.
You can't be a timer for
So I can't
table
get-
topics.
So you can't time if you're going to be in
If
table
you're going
topics.
to be a contestant.
Right.
So,
Thank you for
okay, so you want to be a contestant.
Yes, I
Yeah.
want to be a contestant.
Sam, you're going to be a timer. And we need another timer. Sorry.
backup.
Rana? Sure. Sergeant at Arms. Sergeant at Arms. That's pretty simple.
Just introduce us.
Yeah, Luis will have a script and he'll say, you know, Sergeant Arms, please. It's so scripted out, so you'll know what you have to do.
You have to take people outside.
It's basically taking people out and then bringing them
Bring them
back
back.
one at a
Escort.
time and just a little bit of that.
Yeah.
So I have Sergeant at Arms.
Lindsay?
2 ballot counters. 2 ballot counters. Another ballot counter. Great. Now the contestants, is this a good time to
Yeah.
announce? So who would like to be a contestant who has finished these 6 speeches? Do you raise your hand? No,
No,
you already,
contestants for speeches.
That-
3.
yeah, you're already doing that.
For the-
so.
To
The
be in this-
inspirational speech,
2.
you need to have completed 6 of the competent communicator manual. The table topics, you do not have to have a completion.
And we have two spots for 2 contestants. Where we have Lewis being one of the contestants. 2 more. Anybody would like to step up? Challenge.
So many of us don't qualify.
Yeah, that's a problem.
We got to get you through the competent communicator manuals.
All right, well,
I
as
can see we got-
Toastmaster, it's basically 9:15, so
Yeah.
maybe we can figure out the speakers later. Do you want to ask about table topics?
There's, table topics. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 contestants. So,
That's good.
What are the names?
Oh, you already,
Table top.
no, we don't have any
no
contestants.
5 slots.
Okay,
Five slots.
so who wants to be in it?
Luke,
Hands
Nelson,
up,
Raven,
Luis.
Will, we have one now.
That's only for members, right?
Right.
So if I become member,
Ooh.
like today,
Yeah. You could compete next week, sure, I've seen people do it.
Did you get everybody?
We have to-
Those names? Okay.
But we
have to vote
still
you
need one
in.
more person.
Yeah. We can also finish this up with emailing. But that was
Okay.
a good start.
We only have,
Yeah.
2 spots left.
So think about if you want to speak and if you want to be a table topics evaluator, and just email Lewis.
Yeah.
Or Luis, actually. You should. You should make
Okay, yes. So 2 spots left for the inspirational speech and 1 more for the table topics.
Great, thank you
Which
so
has
much.
no requirement.
I just one question. How will the role players know what their responsibilities are for this? Are you going to be notifying us?
I think I can answer that real quick. Luis will have the script, and a lot of them will be, you'll just know on that night what to do. I have some papers
Okay, so
for
we'll be given
you.
the script.
Yeah, you have to come early. The judges
All the
have-
judges. All the judges
Judges
have
have
to
to come
come
early.
early.
We need to start the training at 7:15.
Not a lot.
I know this, but I just wanted to make sure
Yeah.
other people are told.
You're, yeah. So the people that are judges, you're actually going to have to be here earlier next week.
So 7:15? But by 7:10, we're here and then we're moving in.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do any other roles have to be here early?
Yeah, everybody else should get here, help set up, and so we can get started. Yeah. 7:15, 7:20, you want to get here and.
Accompany, I'm going to get Lewis to send out an email.
Okay.
Yeah, don't forget to mark out the territory.
Yes,
Yeah.
the territory.
Don't forget to do that.
Okay.
But just to clarify, it does start at the same time, right? Officially, it starts at the same time.
If we had a lot of contestants, we'd start earlier.
Yeah,
but
but we don't. So we do.
You have to come up with the topic.
Oh, yeah?
That
Okay.
will-
All right. Sorry.
Like my,
Just one table topic.
oh, the tabletop.
Yeah, one question.
Oh, one question.
One question. See, all the table topics people will be out of the room, and then they'll come in one at a time
Oh.
and be given the exact same question.
Okay.
Have to have
And
Got it.
nobody else hears it. So
I gotta
you-
talk to you, have questions.
Yeah, well,
I'm just mentioning it,
Don't
because one
talk-
time I didn't realize that, and I had to come up with it on the spot.
Right.
It's not
Oh.
good.
Maybe confer, because
it's all here. Okay, so the details will be filled in. Every contest goes smoothly by the grace of God, and let's end on
Do we have,
time. So, yes,
ask for the movement?
Who would like to make that movement? Yes.
Well,
To
I have,
end the meeting?
I have something to say.
Oh,
Okay, so this is the time to pay due. So, anybody have check? I sent an email.
Yeah.
So I hope by next week, everybody will send me the check by mail.
Bring it.
Or next week, they'll bring it here. Or the cash of check, $54. For 6 months. You have a check?
I have cash on here, yeah.
Cash, that's
and the
works.
check,
Okay.
this membership dues actually is the dues for what period of time?
From April 1st to September. So 6 months.
Right.
Yes.
I move that we adjourn the meeting.
Adjourn. Anyone second?
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
I loved it.